In this video, we will look at managing and loading a lathe CNC machine. We will also do a high-level overview of the machine and control definition in the post. I have a MasterCAM part file open with no machine currently in the toolpath manager. If we're going to use the lathe product, we need to tell MasterCAM which machine we're going to use, which will actually open up the lathe product. So if I go to the lathe icon, you see the drop down here. I have a default file that comes with MasterCAM, and I have manage list. This is where we would manage all the posts that we have for our machines in the shop. We currently have the default machine, which we could see earlier, and we also see a file path here. Let's take a look at what's inside of this file path here. So I've got this file folder open. I actually have shared MasterCAM2021 open, which is in C, Users, Public, Public Documents, Shared MasterCAM 2021. I typically pin that to my quick access because I access the files in here all the time. One of the folders in here is the CNC machines. This is where we're going to keep our machine definitions and our control definitions, as well as our generic machine definitions. So you can see we have one default MCAM control here, and we have a variety of LMDs and GMDs. In this case, I want you to notice the lathe default and metric LMDs. LMD stands for lathe machine definition. I'm going to go back up to shared MasterCAM 2021 and down to the lathe folder. Inside of here you see we have a tools folder, which we'll be looking at this in detail later. And we also have a posts folder. So this is where our posts are going to be stored. It comes with 3 generic posts. 2 of them are lathe posts, and one of them is a generic FANUC post, MPL FAN for FANUC. So this is an important place where we keep a lot of folders here. If I come back into MasterCAM, I want to add a machine definition so we can see what happens when we have more than just the 2 default posts. So I've downloaded a generic Haas ST 4X MT lathe from my MasterCAM on the Tech Exchange. And you see this comes down as a mcam.content. This mcam content file contains all the files you'll need for your machine, including the machine and control definition and post. It is an executable zip file that will unzip all the files in it to the appropriate folders in MasterCAM. So I'm going to double click this, and I want to bring up those folders I had open before. So I'll go back to this folder right here. I'll go to CNC machines. I'll put this over on the left, and then I'll open another folder on the right, and we'll go to posts. So we'll go to lathe posts. So I want you to notice we currently have 24 items here, and we currently have 3 items here. So I'll go back to the generic Haas lathe machine, and it's zipped up. This is a zip file and a content file, and I'll go ahead and double click this, and you see it actually opens MasterCAM. And you can see we had successful extraction. So let's take a look at what that did. So you can see I now have 27 items. You can see I have a generic Haas 4X MT lathe, I have a control, and I have a metric LMD. I also have a generic Haas ST4X MT lathe PST, so there's the post. Many times in the posts folder you will also need a similarly named file with a .psb extension. That would be a binned post. So that's our machine and our machine files in the background. Now let's go ahead back into machine and lathe and manage our list. So you can see that now we have these two machines that I just loaded. I've got the generic Haas ST4XMT lathe and the metric version. So if I wanted to add these over here, I can add them. Most of what we're going to be doing will be using the lathe default machine, but I wanted you to see where these files were and how to manage them. So if I come back in here now, I have two choices. I have the default machine and I have the generic Haas that we just put into manage list. I'm going to select default. Now I have lathe set up with a machine ready to go.